Okay, Peter, so the big fight this weekend was Canelo Alvarez against Avi Yildirim, a fight that Canelo won when Yildirim was not sent out by his trainer Joel Diaz for the fourth round. It was kind of predictable. We all thought this was the way it was going to go. You know, the levels between Yildirim and Canelo were vast, and so it proved. It wasn't a competitive fight. You know, Canelo came out for the first round and just kind of had a look at him, started to go through the gears in the second, in the third, really stepped it up again, knocked him down at the start of the third, and was kind of teeing off on him. And I think Joel Diaz, probably made the right call, even though, Yildirim said that he wanted to come out for the fourth. Diaz thought, what's the point? He's just going to get more of a beating. It's only going one way. There's nothing really coming back from Yildirim. So he called time on it. So it went as we kind of thought it would go. A lot of people were saying, Yildirim was 50-1 outsider going into the fight. People were saying, well, why is he fighting 50-1 outsider? The answer is Yildirim was the #1 contender for the WBC belt, which Alvarez won from Callum Smith in December, when he also won the WBA belt. So he needed to take care of his mandatories to fulfill his mission of unifying the belts of super middle, which, as he says, nobody has ever done before. So he wanted to do that, needs to take care of Yildirim and get him out of the way. So it was a fairly predictable fight. Why Yildirim was #1 is one of those mysteries that we're sometimes not privy to, why he was WBC #1, but he was, so he's out of the way. So it was also, in the wake of this fight, confirmed that Canelo will fight Billy Joe Saunders on the Cinco de Mayo, the massive 5th of May Mexican Independence Day fight where Canelo always fights. So we've been talking about that for a few weeks. We knew it was going to happen. We knew, BJS was pretty much nailed on for that day, but the official confirmation came after Canelo beat Yildirim. So, we're just looking forward to that fight now. It's going to be a big day. The venue hasn't been confirmed. It's either going to be Los Angeles or Texas. But either way, that's really the two places we're looking at. And promoted by Eddie Hearn, as he promoted the Yildirim fight, as he promoted the Smith fight. So, he seems to be Canelo's promoter of choice, although Canelo is a free agent at the moment. So going into this fight, what can we expect? And really, the question is, Canelo is riding so high. He looks so unassailable in his last two fights. He's keeping so busy. He's been the pound-for-pound #1 for a while now. Does Billy Joe Saunders stand any chance? That's what we want to see. And really, we've got to make the case for Billy Joe Saunders. He's obviously going to go in here as an underdog. And I think there's a couple of things that people are overlooking. There's the standard stuff when you say that Billy Joe Saunders is a slick southpaw mover. Now, if you're going to be anything to fight Canelo, that seems to be the style, and he's for all styles. That's the one thing about Canelo. He's got that kind of uncomparable experience. Having turned pro at 15, he's now 30 years old, with those 55 wins, that one defeat coming against Floyd Mayweather, against those two draws. One early on in his career that we'll forget about, the second one with Gennady Golovkin in 2018. So, he's for all styles, but the one style he does seem to struggle with a bit is the slick southpaw movers. So I'm thinking about Aristide Lara. A lot of people say Lara won that fight. I'm thinking about Austin Trout. Trout pushed him very close. Now, obviously, Canelo was a better fighter than he was in those respectively 2015 and 2014 fights. But, you've got to look at any sort of chink in the armour. Amir Khan, pretty much won every round until Canelo kind of inevitably nailed him. But Khan's chin is not what Billy Joe Saunders' chin is. We know that. So there are some chinks in the armour where you say, well, the ideal fight, the way the fight that he has trouble with, a slick southpaw movers like Billy Joe Saunders. So and also you've got to look back as well. Canelo is not undefeatable, and it's always dangerous when fighters, not that Canelo is a consummate professional, would consider himself undefeatable, but people are saying this. People are saying he can't be beaten. He's the complete fighter. He's got everything. But Golovkin ran him very close. Arguably won the first, and some people say he won the second. Some people even say Cotto won. Obviously Mayweather outclassed him, even though that was only a unanimous decision, because inexplicably one of the judges, said it was a draw. So, going into this fight, obviously, Canelo has that amazing record. But I think one of the important things as well is that Billy Joe Saunders is undefeated. Although Canelo has met many undefeated fighters before, psychologically that means that you've never been in a boxing ring, never been in a pro ring and lost. And Billy Joe Saunders, don't forget, has won everything. He won everything as an amateur, He went to the Olympics. All right, didn't medal at the Olympics, but he went to the Olympics. He's won Southern Area, British, European, World. Whenever he steps into the ring, he wins. And I think another really interesting psychological factor here is that Billy Joe Saunders is great mates with Tyson Fury, best mates with Tyson Fury. They have been since they were kids, and teammates on the England team. And, when Fury came back after that hiatus, You know, the first person he went to was Billy Joe Saunders, went down to train with him in Spain, and they've always been, you know, absolutely tight. Now, you've got to remember, Fury's already been in the position that Billy Joe Saunders is in now. In other words, he's got to go to the Lion's Den, he's got to go to the dominant fighter's home territory, and everybody's writing him off, and he's going to pull off the unexpected victory. Obviously, Tyson did that in 2015 against Klitschko, and arguably he did it in 2018 against Deontay again, when everybody was writing him off and saying, you've got no chance here. So, you know, this is not, in a way, unfamiliar territory, because Tyson, I'm sure, will be with Billy Joe and will be with him in the corner, which is a great psychological lift. And, you know, he'll say, I've done this before. You know what I mean? You go there, everybody writes you off. They've written us off before, you know, and you pull it off. So how will the fight actually play out? Having said that Saunders, you know, has got those really fast feet. And if Canelo's got one Achilles heel that I can see, it's maybe that his feet are a bit slow. So, you know, Billy Joe's got to make the most of that. Also, I do think Billy Joe is an elite level fighter with an elite level boxing IQ. And I also think he will rise to the occasion. I think he'll box very well. I don't think he'll freeze on the occasion. You know, I think he really will rise to that occasion. So how does it play out? Well, one thing you've got to say is I don't think Billy Joe Saunders stops Canelo. If Golovkin can't stop Canelo, you know, and can't really put much of a dent in him, then Billy Joe Saunders can't. Okay, so we know that. So then we're looking at points. Now, then you've got a problem, haven't you? Because how do you beat Canelo on points? We've already talked about that unbelievable cut. How did Mayweather only get a UD? Sorry, not get a UD. How did he get a majority decision against Canelo? That seems unbelievable, because you know he outclassed Canelo comprehensively in that fight, picking it early, you know, and the peerless skill that Mayweather was. So then you've got to look. Well, Billy Joe Saunders got to box out of his skin. It's got to be the best Billy Joe Saunders we've ever seen. He's got a plan for 12 rounds. He's got to move around, and he's got to outbox, you know, and get past Canelo that way. I think he's got to get past Canelo on points. And as I said, you know, we all know that's a massive ask. But can it be done? Well, I think it can be done. You know, my prediction for the fight would be a unanimous decision for Canelo. But I think Billy Joe Saunders wins a lot more rounds than Smith does, for example, and I don't think it's outside the realms of possibility. I mean, boxing is littered with these type of things. You know, we know that Buster Douglas was a 42-1 underdog against Tyson when Tyson was considered undefeatable. You know, Sugar Ray Leonard went in and bamboozled Marvin Hagler. I know some people find that fight a bit contentious. But Hagler was considered undefeatable, and that was considered a nailed-on win for Hagler. So, you know, these things do happen in boxing. And, you know, I think if anybody's going to do it, maybe Billy Joe Saunders is the man to do it. So, you know, it's a very interesting fight coming up. Like I said, the psychological mind games are going to be interesting before the fight, because I think Fury's going to get involved and he's going to be egging Billy Joe on, and Billy Joe talks a lot anyway. I don't think Billy Joe will be intimidated. I think it'll be a big thing having Tyson coming into his corner. Having said that, there's only two of them in the ring, as we all know. But Billy Joe Saunders' best chance are his fast feet, his flashy combinations, his counters, you know, and trying to take a points decision from Canelo. I know it's going to be in Texas. I know it's going to be in Vegas on the Cinco de Mayo. So it's a big ask. But, you know, let's see how it goes. I think it's they're all there to play for Billy Joe. And I think we'll see the best version of Billy Joe Saunders we've ever seen on the 5th of May.